Hello, beautiful. How are you? And how are you taking care of yourselves today? Welcome to another Joyfully Ever After Through the Looking Glass conversation with yours truly, Heidi Esther. I am a speaker, storyteller, and joy coach. I walk alongside helping professionals and women who take care of the world. You know who you are to break out of their defeating emotional and thought loops and engage some juicy tools that I call self-leadership to create a joyful life on their own terms, right? Something finally just for us. Amen. So I could do this because I've been there in the trenches, like doing and being for like everybody else but me. And I walked through some loss and grief and growth and ate a lot of dark chocolate and like sang some really bad karaoke, and I healed. I dug deep and I got to a place where I could find joy no matter what was happening. Yeah, like no matter if there was a pandemic. So, as a professional relationship builder, veteran storyteller, and mama, I am creating a neighborhood where we peel back the layers and roles that no longer serve us so we can authentically connect and welcome in joy. Or I guess you can think of me if Captain Marvel and Mr. Rogers had a baby who loved baking chocolate chip cookies. And yes, I do have a fresh batch upstairs. So just think about that. Anyway, so welcome to the Joyfully Ever After neighborhood. Today is a through the looking glass conversation. So, what are those? So, these are kind of conversations with different kinds of teachers who have new tools for us to know and heal and grow ourselves just a little more badass. Kind of like a kitten looking in a mirror and seeing the inner tiger. So, we've had tools like astrology and acupuncture and Enneagram, and today I'm going to introduce you to someone who has such a helpful tool. This tool has really liberated me a lot in a lot of areas in my life to keep growing stronger. Miss Susan Northrup, welcome to Joyfully Ever After Through the Looking Glass.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm just so excited we get to talk to each other.
Yay!
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We have known each other for about a decade now. So this is just I guess this conversation's been like a long time coming as we've been on our different avenues, and now we're finally in a place where we're like, boom. We each are joy coaches. And I know Susan calls herself lots of other kinds of coaches, so I'm gonna get into that. I'm gonna introduce you. So um Susan is a helpful and wise soul who is truly on her own journey to joy and has such a powerful tool to share. She calls herself also, in addition to joy coach, transformation coach, energy healer, and owner of, I like to call it maybe founder of Choose Into Joy. She empowers women to have more energy and clarity, especially regarding those real tricky pieces of self-confidence and healthy boundaries. Keep that word in mind. I'm going to come back to it. So she spent decades just exhausted, focusing on ensuring the happiness of those around her as her self-worth eroded away. Or as she used to say to me, she had so many plates. She kept, you got to keep all the plates spinning, got to keep all the plates spinning, right? So yeah. So now she
Catch it, catch it, catch it.
no, catch it. Catch
Catch it,
it. If
catch
you
it,
don't
catch
catch
it.
it, come on.
Oh.
I know that so intimately. So now Susan knows her worth and lives joyfully and unapologetically, and I would like to add courageously to that. Courageously herself. She has a boatload of powerful, life-changing tools and certifications from her journey and her work, helping others transform their lives. And she really specializes in helping people pleasers discover and clear blocks to their ideal life. So you can totally, and I'll put this in at the end of the show, but if you're super curious and want to go there now, you can always go to www.chooseintojoy.com. So Susan, that was like the 30,000 foot overview.
That's pretty fancy.
Yeah, so let's get a little closer look at the beautiful soul who is Susan. So, what is something specific that brings you joy?
Sunsets.
Mm,
I live outside the city limits, so I get to see them go all the way to the ground, and just the colors.
mhm.
Um, I know. I love it. It just makes me smile. It just makes me smile.
I love that.
Um, and
The
I was
rich
like,
colors.
"Honey, honey, come look. It's look how beautiful it is. Look at the colors tonight."
He's like, "Honey, that happens every day." And you're like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, I
yeah,
know. That's why
yeah.
it's so
I
great."
know, but the colors are especially pink tonight. Look, it's turned the whole hallway pink. Look at this. And there are nights that I can just appreciate it by myself.
Mm,
If he's not into it, he's not into it.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. So, oh, you opened the door to joy. You said, like, "Do you wanna come through this door and check out the sunset with me?" Not? Okay, I'm just taking this joy for me right now.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
it's all good. It's all good. So, what is something you love to do when you're not out saving the world and helping transform lives?
Um, I'm embarrassed to say it. I love streaming TV. I love a good drama.
Ooh, there's
Especially
nothing wrong with that.
there's something about, and I like some sci-fi too, but there's something about watching a TV show and you can see the emotional development of the characters. It's so
Mm,
nice. At the end, they get it or they've had some kind of growth. And yeah, I like that.
I love that.
And
The big hero's journey.
yes, I love that. I love it. I love seeing, and it's just, yeah, I could go on for a long time, but they're doing that emotional journey so much more in TV now, and I find it appealing. And they're
Mhm.
such good writers. Okay, just one more, just one
Yeah. Most recent one that really lights you up?
more. Actually, I was watching st- that lit me up. Um, I never. It was actually a high school teen drama.
Aw.
Never have I ever.
Okay. Okay.
Never have I ever. That and
Sounds like a
Star
truth or
Trek
dare.
Strange New Worlds. It's all
Ooh.
people are
Ooh,
people.
Star Trek. I love that. I love that. I'm starting a new series. My wife and I are starting a new series called Foundation, and it's based off of Isaac Asimov's books. And so,
Ooh,
yeah, very sci-fi. So I was just like, ooh, maybe I read the books first. Anyway, all right. So let's bring it back in. So,
okay.
Susan, how are you taking care of yourself today?
Um, well, there's this.
That looks large.
It's very large because
The
I get to drain
64
this whole
ouncer?
thing tonight, so I'm
Yeah.
hydrated. I'm taking care of my physical body.
Mhm.
And today, the thing that sticks out most, how many do you want? Because I have a
You could just
list.
yeah, you could just
Okay.
give me the top 3.
Top 3, hydrating,
Okay.
not letting, the first impediment stop me. We're having
Ooh.
smoke in the air and it's affecting internet. So, I'm here at the public library because the f if, a little hurdle isn't gonna stop me. So keeping momentum going, that's one way I
Mm.
take care of me. Third way, earlier today, I had an honest discussion with my husband. Can I use the car? Yes, and yes, and I need it at this time. Um, so those are 3 ways today that I can think of off the top of my head.
I love that. I love that. Today I
How about you?
my my whole website went down. And yeah, so one minute I was working on it and the next minute like all of my pages were just gone. It was all like the 404 error and not even a cute little dinosaur was on screen. It was like nothing. And I was like, at least there could have been a cute puppy picture like Amazon. Like, now I guess I'm the one who has to put that picture out there. Anyway, so
Uh-huh.
I reached out to, like, 2 people, and I was like, "1, do you have people?" And 2, like, the next second person, I was like, "Are you available?" So, it turned out the first person I reached out to, they gave me some insight, and I actually was able to call my website host company who was
Mhm.
Bluehost, and they were able to keep me on the line, keep me very calm. They were like, "We're with you, and we're gonna stay with you until this is fixed, and we can do this. We're gonna do this
What's the name of this
together."
place?
Bluehost, and I was like, "You
Okay.
guys are so nice. You're like emotional support web people." And, because I was just like it was like, I don't know, I felt like the Matrix, like, ate my website today. And so they popped it back on, and then, all of a sudden, it was just a homepage and all the other pages were gone, and they were like, "Oh, okay, let's go back in." And then, like, 3 minutes later, they were still talking to me this whole time, then it was fixed. And so I didn't automatically descend into, like, a the spiral of chaos. Like, I was
Mhm.
just like, "Alright, I'm gonna do some deep breaths." And then I went to, one of my things that I love is connecting with people. And so I
Mhm.
said, "Who can I connect with who might have an answer for me? Who can point me in a right direction?" And I'm one of those people who is like, if I'm lost, I will pull over and ask people. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to do that. And, it's always nice to meet someone new. So, yeah.
There are no strangers around you. My experience of you, there are no strangers. It's one of the things I love about you.
That is true. That is true. If you meet me at some point within the first 5 minutes, I'll offer you like a cookie and a place to sit, and like we'll talk about your life story.
That's another way I'm taking care of myself. I'm not at your house right now because I would be eating those cookies, and
You
that's not
would be.
taking
I
care
do
of
have,
myself
yeah.
right now.
Got some fresh cookies. Got some fresh cookies. Oh, so fun. Yes, yes. So that's how I took care of myself, and I allowed myself um chance to try out some new skills today
Ooh.
and did some learning and falling forward. I did some falling forward today. And I'm like, "All right, this is all good. This is all good." I didn't give myself too much grief because like after you try something it doesn't work,
Mhm.
like I used to always just like beat myself up and then I'd go in a hole. But now I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, that didn't work, but that doesn't surprise me." And like, "Oh, coaching and fundraising have some like similar threads
Yeah, they do.
to them. So, uh, anyway, yeah. So I came to much more realizations much more quickly than if
Mhm.
I had just like pummeled myself emotionally. So, all right. So we are here to talk about boundaries.
Alright.
Yay.
Yay.
So, um,
Needed.
yes. Yeah, we are going to have a whole little convo about boundaries. So, first, we're gonna like kind of go from like the don't know anything about them and to like kind of how we experience them. So first let's give everyone like just kind of a primer, like what are boundaries, why are they important? Do you want to take this one?
Sure. There's two ways of thinking about them. The easiest way is thinking of it like a boundary is literally like a fence around something.
Mm,
And what I like about that analogy is on the outside is one thing and on the inside is something else. And psychologically, a boundary is how you keep the integrity of this is me, this is not me. And when you do that, you're more able to realistically decide what, you know, realistically decide, yes, I can participate in a relationship or an activity, or no, I can't. That's a very technical way of saying it's this is my hula hoop, this is your hula hoop, this is my dance space, this is your dance space. And what I like about that is you have to have, when you have the concept of this is what is me, then that decision gets to happen of what do I share with you, what do I not share with you, how much of you do I let in, how much do I keep you out, and all of those are
mm,
decisions that you get to make.
mm.
So what do you think boundaries are?
I love that. I love that. So when you were talking about the fence, so I have a whole metaphor about
Mhm,
that we are all like houses.
mhm,
And so we can either instead of we can have doors and windows, right? We can
mhm,
open to let the fresh air in. We can shut when it's stormy outside. Or we could decide to not have any doors and windows, and we can just let anybody and their brother come in and eat all the food out of our fridge and like don't even clean up after themselves. Or we could just brick everything over and say, you know what? I don't need anybody else. I'm just going to be in here in a dark space. So when you were talking about the fence, though, it just, um, so if you're if any of those watching or watching the replay are new to my community, I am married to a woman, and I will say when I met the person who would then become my wife, the very stereotypical lesbian second date. What does a lesbian bring to her second date?
Let's see, moving boxes?
Yeah, a U-Haul. So
Sorry.
we're both right. We're both right. Okay.
I don't know.
So
You tell me.
okay.
I don't
So
know.
that is a big stereotype. That actually was true because I was not having any boundaries at that moment. And so my metaphorical house was no doors and windows. It was like what's mine is yours is mine. So there
Mhm,
was just it was just people call it enmeshed.
mhm,
Um and so yeah, so that whole stereotype rang true. And while it was great because it's like, oh, you have this deep emotional connection, you're also
yeah,
like there is a point where you just have this like I didn't have a strong sense of self, but I had less of a strong sense of self and more of a strong sense the sense of like I was in a relationship or like this person completed me.
yeah,
And I couldn't say like that I had a separate self-worth outside of that relationship in that context. And yeah, and so I only define myself through what I call in my self-wisdom module, I call it my relationship layer. So I only define myself by like my value as a mom, as a wife, as a daughter, as an aunt, as a volunteer, as a work coworker, and I couldn't define myself like as a person. And so my house was always open to all of those other people because that was how I define myself worth.
mhm.
So yeah, so I guess
There's
hey what?
I w the thing I find interesting about that is, those roles of what I do for you, who I am in relation to you. And so how do I have value and worth if I'm not doing for you?
Or if
If
I'm
I
not
take
letting you
out
in
that
my house.
out, who am I?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it can, yeah, people pleasing. Sorry, I jumped to that already, but
Yeah.
yeah, if I'm not doing for you or if I'm only defined by my relationships, who am I without all of that? And I'm going to speak from I found it problematic because in those quiet moments and doing for others eventually became exhausting, physically and emotionally. If I'm not doing, and I'm not proving my worth, I am nothing.
Mhm.
And the depression rose and rose and rose and rose and rose because of that.
Mm. It's like we were programmed to build our houses for everyone else.
Yes. And we build the houses that our parents grew us up in. Just
Mhm.
gonna say that. Or
Mhm.
I say parents, um,
Guardians.
however we were
Mhm.
raised, guardians,
Mhm.
however we were raised.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, specific kind of behaviors, right, were modeled for us, and then we took those on, right? And so
yeah.
eventually, and this is like the fifth time I've had this conversation this week. Eventually, that house, even though it was modeled for us, and our parents like said, "This
Mhm.
is your house, and this is what you're going to do." Eventually, we're the ones who keep ourselves in that house. We're the ones who
Absolutely.
don't put those doors and windows on. And the real problem is when we get into a place where we blame everyone else, right?
Yeah.
And we don't
Um,
take responsibility for
right. Um, or somehow you're given a gift, a little clue that there could be something else. And
mm.
that gift can show up in so many different ways. Um,
Ooh. Ooh,
uh,
what was your gift? You must have had a gift in mind, not inquiring minds
um,
wanna know.
for me, the gift was, I had, for me, the gift was I had a breakdown because I physically couldn't keep doing. And so my body said, stop. My brain said, stop. We can't do this anymore. And I went, but now what? And it was the grand pause that made me think, wait. And thankfully, I knew enough that, well, I know there's something and I get to figure out what it is. I didn't say it that way at the time. I think it was like, well, I know this isn't working, but I don't know what else to do. And so I asked for help. And thankfully, I got it in a number of different ways from a number of different methods. I'm finding myself distracted because you're over here and I want to make eye contact with you. So
it's all good. I know. I look at you on my screen instead
anyway.
of looking in the appropriate way, which is at the camera on my screen.
Anyway, what was the question?
So the gift of finding yourself. You found yourself in and figured out boundaries and from multiple different avenues.
I call it the gift because it could be, I can't do this anymore. This is ridiculous. And the gift could be, I got a preview gift. I was helping my dad reclaim a room that had like 15 years of undone stuff. I waited until he said, can you help me? And so I went. And I'm sitting here going through and organizing his stuff. And I'm calling. Why am I telling this story anyway? I'm calling and trying to negotiate a credit card for him. And she's like, and the woman on the phone is like, why am I talking to you? Why am I not talking to him? And I was like, I don't know. This would be his credit card, not mine. But the gift can be a conversation where somebody goes, hey, I see this differently than you. And you go, oh. So the gift can come in many different ways. It's the little wake-up call. That's what I call the gift. In addiction, they call it hitting bottom, and it can look a lot of different ways.
Anyway. I love that. Yeah. So my gift would have been when my life was at its pretty particular bottom. I was in the middle of a contentious divorce, and there had been some issues with my husband at the time, leaving my son in different stores. And so I just kept looking at my son thinking, like, is there something wrong with him? Like, is he going to be fundamentally, like, did something I didn't do, like, did that ruin him for his whole life? And I remember it was with my first real therapist, and she handed me a sheet that said, like, healthy attachment styles for your baby and toddler, or whatever. My son was a toddler at the time. And so I looked at that, and then I remember looking, and I was like, it was like this big wave of relief like came over me, and I was like, he has a healthy attachment to me. Like, all hope is not lost. Like, we're okay, right? Because I'm continually looking at the other relationship, right? At that relationship with my son to validate myself. If it's healthy enough, then I'm doing a good job, right? Then I have self-worth. Right. And then I remember looking at that piece of paper and thinking, like, I don't know if I have a healthy attachment to anyone in my life. And I remember, like, because it was like I had this big wave of relief, and then I had this big heat. Like, my whole body heated up. Like, I was completely, like, I was so embarrassed. Like, the shame just wall, like, completely covered me up. And I was like, oh God, but I was in a safe space. And so I was okay. Like, I was starting to articulate and be able to identify when I had emotions, because I used to just repress them and Diet Coke and let's polish silverware and do ridiculous things. Yeah, we all got, so it was like, can we, what else can I do with all this energy? Let's not deal with what's reality. Let's do
That's
something.
unpleasant. Let's do something else.
Let's iron infant clothes. Hey, that sounds like useful for them to wear it for 3 minutes before they like get it dirty. It's all good.
Wait, infant clothes?
I used
Okay.
to I used to iron all of my kids' clothes since birth. Like it was like a thing. Like they had to be perfect, pristine little people. And so I'd outfit change them like they were a little prince and princess like 4 or 5 times a day.
Okay.
Yeah. And so if it was like a little wrinkly, even if it was like a onesie, like I would iron it. I'm like, okay.
You know
So
what? I have no problem with that if it brought you joy, if you enjoyed that, if you liked
yeah.
it. I have
Yeah.
no problem with that at all.
Unhealthy coping.
Okay. And I don't get to label that for you.
Yeah, that's me, that's me. So, I know that part of, like, when you have a feeling and you have extra energy, it's good to, like, deflate that, but mine would it would probably last days after the deflation. I would still be
Oh, okay.
ironing. Yeah. Yeah, so that was, like, my big thing, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know, like, well, how do I make a healthy attachment? Like, what is a healthy attachment? Like, I don't know anything about this."
Mhm.
Um and then my, um therapist at the time, she recommended a 12-step group, and, like, that one didn't really fit, and then she recommended another one called Coda, and that one fit, and I was like, "Oh, I'm home with people who
People
understand.
pleasers anonymous.
Yay." And so, yeah, so it's just been, that was, like, the hugest thing, and I just celebrated my 10-year anniversary. Woo! This past
Congratulations.
weekend. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yay.
Congratulations.
Yay. So,
Yeah,
um,
that's where you and I met. Oops.
I'm not here to talk about your journey,
That's
and yet,
right.
and yes.
And yet. Um, gosh, what were we talking about?
Okay.
See,
So,
we had
yeah,
such fun talking.
so we just did a little journey about like how we started, right? How did we start with
Yeah,
boundaries? So it's like the gift, right? So the gift was that sheet on healthy attachment styles for babies.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so okay, so I want to talk next about like why is it like people say, "Oh, boundaries are hard." And like coming from a mom perspective of
Okay.
like thinking about just the thing that always pops to my head is like when you're with the kids in the grocery store and then like, "Can I have this mom? Can I have this mom? Can I have this mom? Can I have this mom?" And then finally you're like, "No, no, 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 no. Yes." Wah, wah, wah for the boundaries, right? We end up with the Twinkies and the ding dongs anyway, with a side of like Fruity Pebbles. So,
With the side of sugar and more
yeah,
sugar.
sugar with sugar, and fine, you can have a soda at the checkout or whatever you got to do. Um, I haven't done all that in one trip, just to let you know.
No
So
judgment.
why is it so hard? So some people say like, "Oh, I tried to do boundaries and it was just too hard," and then they gave
Um,
up and they're just doing. So why so obviously like annoying children, like those, right? People
yeah.
keep, right? So what's getting in the way of boundaries and why is it so hard to set boundaries? And yeah.
It is a super, super complex issue. And I'm gonna say boundaries are easy when you're in a situation and only one thing matters. But boundaries involve other people, right? So really there's multiple priorities in every given situation. There's what you want, like I want my kid to have healthy food. There's um there's the relationship of what it is that you want, the relationship of maintaining or improving the relationship, and then there's the self-respect. And you get to balance all three of those, and those can change in any given moment. When you first started saying no, 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 was your priority the health of your kids long term? And I'm not going to give in to my kid. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah, or it could,
maybe,
yeah, because it's like, all right, we got dinner after this, and so there's no way I'm gonna let you eat the ding dongs.
right. Um, and so that priority can change, um, you know, I want to keep a good relationship with my children, and I get to, I'm trying to use that example. in that example in the store, what is it that was most important to you? Like, why were you saying no initially?
Oh, because I didn't want to bring more junk food into the house.
Right. You
Yeah,
didn't wanna
and
bring more.
yeah, and
Huh.
we had dinner right after that, and they were they were gonna, like, open up that package in the store.
Right.
That's what's gonna happen.
And so you knew, so the priority was not have my kids eat junk food
Mhm.
and not have them spoil their dinner.
Yeah.
And then as they started the maintaining the relationship part, as they started getting more and more and more and more, mom, 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 that relationship thing, I want to not yell at my children in the store. Or
Rose
I
rose
don't
to the
know.
surface. Yeah.
Um, but maintaining or improving the relationship, um, that may have changed as the more and more and more and more and more they talked.
Yeah, and so
And
then eventually I will say, like, "Alright," 'cause this is what I would say. I say, "Alright, so if you get this now, then there's no dessert tonight.
excellent.
So
See,
this is your dessert. So, like, we're just gonna trade times for dessert then." And so then they have to, right? So then I empowered them. I was like, "You have to choose your dessert time now." And I always brought, like, fruit or something with me to the store. And so,
yeah,
like, I was like, "And you have to eat your fruit before you eat it." And so, like, that's how I would make peace, like, for them and me.
right. And you were also you also wanted to feel good about yourself in being loving and kind to your children. That's that
Mhm.
self-respect part.
Yeah,
So
not
you
being that
found.
crazy mom in the store.
Yeah, I don't wanna look like the crazy mom in the store. I don't wanna give up and give my kids anything they want. How do I wanna feel about myself? You were able
Mhm.
to find a way to be nurturing to your children and give them a choice, and also, not have them have junk food and then sweets later.
Mhm.
Um, and again, it's complex. And in any given moment, the priorities of what's the most important, my self respect, the relationship, or what it is, the result or
Mm.
the objective I
Yeah.
want. And that changes in any given
Yeah.
situation. It's super complex.
Yeah, we're complex beings. And
And,
yeah.
sorry, um, and with people who tend to define themselves by what they can do for other people, having serving the relationship or keeping the relationship no matter what happens to what you want
Mhm.
and the results, or sorry, and how you feel about yourself, that can be problematic over time,
Yeah.
and you get the
Yeah, because the
low
relationship is
self-esteem.
always the most important piece for
Right,
me. Yeah.
right. And there's that whole, I'm gonna do this, and then it gets harder and harder and harder. And there's the, I can't, there's the, well, I'm not gonna be able to, I don't deserve to get what I want because I normally don't get what I want. And well, I'm gonna give up on myself again, so I'll just give it.
Mhm.
Does that make any sense?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um,
Preaching
it's
to the
hard
choir.
because short answer, it's hard because there's multiple priorities being balanced.
Mhm.
And also, there are times where it requires sacrificing short term comfort for long term results,
I love that.
which it sometimes it requires being very uncomfortable in the short term. It's so much easier. It's easier to give up in the short term, and it has an effect long term. So it's holding out in that short term
For
in
long
a
term. That just totally reminds me
respect.
of the relationship between, guilt and regret. So
Yes.
regret to me is such a long it's a long term, right? Guilt is like, "Oh, I didn't go, I made 2 loaves of banana bread and I only gave half to my neighbor instead of, like, her a full loaf because she does a lot of work,
Hmm.
helps us a lot." And, but, like, and I don't really know what the long term would be for that, but anyway, so, like but regret is, like, the long term, like, I didn't, like, nurture that relationship to where it could have been, and, like, we ended up estranged or whatever. Um, and so, yeah, I just view that's kinda like the same thing. It's like you give in to the guilt for the short term, and then you end up with the long-term, lifelong regrets, right? But if you
Yes.
hold out and you say, no, I'm gonna hold to my compass, and I'm gonna hold to my personal compass and my priorities, and then you're getting rid of that long-term pain, right? And then
Mhm.
you're setting yourself up for success and setting healthy boundaries long term.
Yes. And it's also hard because if it hasn't been modeled for you, how are you going to know how to do it?
Yeah, they don't teach this in school.
Um, so it depends on the school.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's not
not in
something.
my school. I didn't learn
Okay,
this in my
I didn't
school.
learn it
Let's
in my
just say
school
that.
either.
Okay.
I didn't. But like, yeah, I love my dad, and he had no boundaries. Like, I didn't even know what that word meant.
Mhm.
At least high school, I heard some boundaries. Even then, as a 35-year, I'm like, boundaries. What is that?
I would only know that, like, boundaries on a tennis court or on a
Yeah,
volleyball court. That's
exactly.
the
This is
only
the
boundaries I knew.
yes. It literally was a fence, a boundary, the boundary
Mhm.
waters. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, yes, so
Because
true.
yeah, I had none.
Yeah, I don't know if I really had any, like, healthy boundary modeling
Yeah.
in that way growing up. It was just like, be of service, help your mom always, like, set the table and clean up dinner, and, be as helpful and as busy as you can.
Mm.
And, motto in my family was, "You'll sleep when you're dead."
Oh, ouch.
That was a common theme in my family. So, suck it up,
Yeah, but
buttercup.
sweetheart, if you don't sleep, you will die.
I know, so it's kinda funny, right? Like, I'll die because of no sleep, and I'll sleep when I'm dead then? Okay,
Wait, what?
I don't know if that
Yeah,
works that way.
there are a lot of family cultures and family beliefs
Mhm,
that you are supposed to sacrifice yourself. Absolutely, that's
mhm,
just how it is.
yeah, and now we're going towards, we want to bring a culture where, like, personal fulfillment and, like,
Yes,
feeling good is, like, I believe
the
that joy is my
balance.
compass.
Yes.
Like, it tells me what I want more of in my life, and you know what? Feels really good? Sleep.
Yeah.
Like, an adequate amount of sleep feels really good. I'm not cranky, I'm not walking around being all bemoany about everything.
Yeah.
Yes, totally, totally true.
All right.
All right. So, Susan, your
Yeah.
mission is about helping people pleasers. And so, how does someone know? So, the words people pleaser didn't come into my sphere until many years, probably into my coded journey. So I didn't really know what that was. And I had a positive affiliation with that word, I think probably
Hmm.
before I
Many
knew
people do.
exactly what it was. So how does someone know if they might be one? I certainly consider myself one. Did you consider yourself one? And then how can someone work with that, like, if they have a positive affiliation with being a people pleaser, like, how can they still work towards healthy boundaries?
All right. It is a good thing to please other people. It's not
Mm.
intrinsically
It
bad.
feels good. It feels good,
Help
right, to
it
help.
and it feels good.
Yeah.
Like drinking does, if having a chocolate chip cookie feels good. It's
Mhm.
not a bad thing. Helping someone else is not a bad thing, and we kinda have to. No, we don't.
We're interconnected, and we're meant
Imagine
to
a
we're meant to
dream.
work together. We're all
Yeah,
meant to
we're
work together,
if we were
right?
not meant to work together, we could procreate alone, and we can't.
That's a
Actually,
good
we can now.
example.
No, it
Good
requires
example.
something of another person.
Yeah, guys, samples from 2 people.
Yes, samples from 2 people. Um, so helping someone else is not a bad thing. Pleasing someone else is not a bad thing. People pleasing has a connotation of if you are pleasing other people to the detriment of yourself.
There's the difference.
If you are helping other people, but you're not taking care of yourself.
Mhm.
If you're helping other people and using that to define your worth,
Or your whole self. Yes.
that's yeah, your whole
Yeah.
self. If that defines you as a person, that's what I call a people pleaser. I think of it, it does uh, kind of fall hand in hand with codependency. They're a little different, but people pleasers are
Mhm.
those who help other people to the detriment of self. You can have a
Mm.
cookie, you can have a couple cookies, but if you have cookies and it becomes a problem for you and affects your health and you're obese, then it's a problem. Helping other
Mhm.
people is a nice thing to do. It feels
Mm.
good. But if you're
Mhm.
doing it and you're not getting sleep and you're not taking care of yourself and your needs,
Mm.
that's when I call it people pleaser.
Yeah, that's when, like, the people-pleasing sirens need to go off, like, "Wee-oo, wee."
Yeah. It sounds, I think of people pleasing shows up a lot as resentment. Like, "Ah, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Or I
Like,
am
"I'm the
so,
only one who can do this.
oh,
I
yes.
have to do this for them."
Are you really?
Are
Um,
you? Hmm. Yeah.
yes.
For me, it showed up like, okay, so this is what I actually said to myself.
Uh-huh.
I would get up in the morning, my kids were little, like, during their little times, this is my pre-coda, Heidi, and I would get up and be like, "Oh, I wonder who my pound of flesh is gonna go to today."
Wow.
So when you are self-sacrificing so
Mhm.
much that, like, you hurt in some way, that is a sign that people pleasing has gone a bit too far,
Yes.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember saying that a lot, and never to anybody else, but just like, who's going to ask me to do what today that's going to, like, cause me to lose sleep or not eat a meal. Um
Mhm.
and like, even with my kids, like, if my kids had issues, like, I would just, like, all of a sudden I'd be at dinner, I'd be like, "Oh, I forgot to eat breakfast and lunch." How do you do that? Like, now I'd be like a really hot mess. Um,
One of the
like, how do
clients,
you do that? Right? It's you forget
yeah.
yourself. I call it, like, self-forgetting. So when you
Yes.
are focused so much on the other that you are self-forgetting, then the people-pleasing ambulances need to come and get you and put an
Right.
IV, and you need to get some, awareness, you get a little awareness salve in you,
Yeah.
or whatever that juice is, the IV, awareness IV.
I was working with a person and she was um, medically dehydrated most of the time, and it was having a physical effect. And so
Mm.
she started hydrating, and she's like, "I now I have to stop and pee, and I don't have time to stop and pee. If you are not stopping, if you're not stopping to go to the bathroom, if you're skipping meals, some people do that because they're fasting, by intermittent fasting. But if you're not skipping meals by active
Choice.
choice,
Mhm.
if you are not getting the minimum amount of sleep, if you're not getting six to
Mhm.
8 hours of sleep or however much your body needs, if you
Mhm.
are not engaging in an activity that you find fulfilling, if you are not taking time for spiritual enrichment, intellectual enrichment, if you're not doing things that fulfill you just for you, yeah,
You
look
might
at
be a
that.
people pleaser.
You might be, if
Hmm.
yeah, if the only thing that makes you feel good is what can I do for somebody else?
Mhm. Mhm. And this people pleaser used to walk around with thank you notes in her purse to remind her of how helpful she was for other people.
Oh, wow.
Yep,
I used to walk ar
I had him,
when
like, at my bedside table and everything. It was a thing.
um, I carried around an index card in my pocket, for about a month or 2, and all it said on it was, "I am enough," and I circled the
Mm.
period. Because it isn't I'm enough because I help this person. I am worthy because I'm doing this. I am worthy because of this relationship. I am worthy because I'm good at this and somebody else has done this. Um,
Mm.
just I am worthy because I breathe. I don't have to do anything for anyone. Yeah, it was an exercise I had to do until I really believed it.
I love
Yeah, that
that.
was probably 13 years ago, 14 years ago. It's
I
where I
love
was
that.
at. It's where I was at.
I love that, and we all need that reminder that,
Yeah.
like, right, because it brings it back home, like, because it lets us question, why are we doing these things?
Right.
Why are we doing, like, recently someone asked me to help their nonprofit with fundraising help, and I was like,
Mhm.
and my immediate reaction was like, oh, I know all about fundraising. I have 17 years fundraising
I was gonna say
experience.
you're
So
fabulous at it.
yeah, I got fundraising experience for miles, and I was like, oh, I could do this and it'd be great or whatever. And then this is a new friend, and then I sat down and I was like, because then my gut was like in a knot, and I was like, what's up, Mr. Gut? What's going on down there?
Yeah.
It was like, we're done with fundraising. We don't want to do it anymore. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do fundraising anymore. So it was like, so it's just like always, like, even though I'm 10 years in recovery, like always being cognizant of like, why and do I want to help this other person? So like, right, I wanted to be that person's friend and I wanted to be helpful. So my inner people pleaser, boom, triggered on the way, almost signed up to do all the things. And then I was like, oh, this is not true to like who I am right now. And so like my journey is like lifting up women who take care of the world and helping professionals. And that
Yeah.
wasn't what the nonprofit was geared towards. And so, and I don't want to do fundraising anymore. Like I want to help in personal growth and fulfillment. And I'm just like, okay. So, right. And then I had to set a boundary.
Good for you.
It was
Yeah.
scary, and I'm just like, you know what? The relationship, if it is authentic, like it will survive, like me setting this boundary.
Do you really want to have a relationship in the long term where you aren't getting anything that you want or need? If
Right.
it's not supporting you as your authentic self, do
Mm-hmm.
you want that kind of relationship in the long term?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that one's kind of ouchy sometimes.
Yeah, and me being a recovering workaholic, and
Yeah.
my ego was like, it was like, come on, this is an easy one. We can do really good at this one. I look really good. Let's do this one. And I'm just like, I see you, ego, and I love you, and we have so much expertise that we're going to pour into this other avenue. We're not going to waste 1 cent of it, and it's going to be
Yes.
okay. My ego's like, fine, be that way, all indirect and stuff. So yeah, so I had to work with.
Fine, serve me with that long term. Serve me with
Go.
the.
Jeez, why can't we just go get some more ego right now? So anyway, so
Yeah, I wish
Susan,
I could say I'd never done that.
ego can ego, there's a lot there with the ego.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so at the end of the show, and in the show notes, I will put up a link to a fabulous myth busting workbook that you created about boundaries. And would you like to give us a sneak peek at that too? Or we could also talk about a 3-step process. I don't know if that's also in the workbook.
It is not.
Okay. So I'm gonna put you on full screen to talk a little bit about your 3-step process.
Great.
Okay. All right.
Wonderful.
Yay.
Yay. Um, the 3-step process. Step 1, basically there's 3 things that happen. The first one, it's external. Someone asks you for what they want. They tell you, this is what's a win for me. This is what I want. Sorry, I think about it. Sometimes people don't actually state it as a request. They just assume it. They just assume, but it's a request for your time, your money, your resources, your energy. That's theirs. And then comes the internal part. And you ask yourself, do I have this to give? Do I have the time? Do I have the energy? Do I have the emotional capacity? Have I taken care of myself physically and emotionally? Have I done things that I need to do for me first? And then the second question is, do I want to? That's when a lot of people skip. Do I want to? How does this serve what I want? Does it for the relationship that I want? Will it give an objective that I want? Will it help me with my self-esteem, how well I feel about it afterwards? And then is there a way that this could be? And that short circuit that whole, I don't get to ask for what I want, and just ask yourself, how is this a win for me? How could this be a win for me? And then the third part is external. You respond. Yes, I have it to give. Yes, I want to. That's a yes. No, yes, I have it to give, but I don't want to. That's an honest no. No, I don't have it to give, but I want to. No, it's an honest no. I'd like to, but I can't. Or negotiate. Um, yes, there's a lot in there, and I have a group boundaries program that we go through because there's a lot of complexity. But really, the most important thing is somebody asks you for something. That's one, they ask you. Two, stop and ask yourself, do I want this? Do I have it to give? Is there a way I could? How could this be a win for me? And if it's not, you just respond honestly. That's the shortest version I got. Mostly, it doesn't serve you or them. If you had a volunteer if you asked for somebody to volunteer for you and they showed up tired, hungry, or they didn't want to be there, or you had the choice of someone who was not hungry, well rested, and wanted to be there, which volunteer would you rather have? If you're not honestly responding, you're not providing them the opportunity to find somebody else who actually wants to be doing it. All right. And are you there?
That was so good. That was
All
so
right.
good. So you briefly mentioned your boundaries program. Could you tell us a little more about that?
Sure. It is a group online live coaching program. It is 5 weeks. And one of the things that we talk about is the myths that we really dive into, is the myths that can keep you from stopping to think about what is it that you want, what is it that you need. And we do some work on challenging those to help change them, because it's a belief.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's
not
hard.
reality.
It's just written in there,
Yeah,
right? We got all these core beliefs, and some of them are serve us, and some of them don't serve
right.
us, right? But it takes a while to get them out.
Yeah, and at some point your brain decided it was true, and you can teach your brain something else. That's one of the other
Mm,
tools I use.
yeah.
And the download is basically a list of a place to look at those and go, why am I not stopping? Oh, because I was raised with this belief. Well, is there a way that this belief isn't true all the time?
To challenge
Anyway,
it. I love it.
yes.
I love it. I call it. I went through a season in my life where I went through with a therapist. I went through my core beliefs. It was about 9 months, and I think I uprooted about 20 core beliefs. And
Mm,
I call it the replanting the garden phase.
mm,
There was a lot of loving and connecting with my little self and all the
mhm.
beliefs that I had acquired that were not true, right? And we went through a process. Like you can go through a process like, is this true for me? Right. And like, what's the evidence? And like, what is the evidence that is not true?
Right.
Like I
Exactly.
like to say, like, if I didn't do everything for my kids, I was a bad mom. Like, is that true? Like I just
Yeah.
had this core belief that I was doing something wrong as a mom. And so like I went through, right, and I gathered evidence and then I rewrote it.
Mhm. Yes, exactly.
And you know what it came back as like I am a present mom.
Exactly.
And that is like I still hold that today. And I had the I'm not enough
Oh, yeah.
belief. And now I replanted it with I contribute. So whenever I
Beautiful.
come in, I feel like I can contribute in one way or another. And
Absolutely, you do.
oh, thanks. Thank you for validating that.
Not that you needed that from me.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Susan. Ah, so
Ah,
good, so good. So, um, this is one of my favorite parts of the program, and it can be tricky for guests. I call it the spotlight moment. So,
And one of my lights went out.
okay.
Let's do it.
Oh, okay. All right. So talk to us about your peculiar genius, like your unique mix of talents and personality, like the beautiful Susan too. Quirks and weirdnesses that make you uniquely qualified to do what you do.
Okay. I think it's actually this superpower that was developed being a people pleaser, making sure everybody else was happy in the room and everybody had what they need. And I know what you want and what you want and when you want. And to be able to do that, my brain developed the ability to consider multiple perspectives at the same time. And so it's very easy for me to do comedy, stand-up comedy, because it's all about the ironies and switching the perspective on something.
I got some venues for you locally. We just need to talk.
Okay. I love doing that, and right now I'm choosing to spend more time on my coaching and healing.
I love that.
While I love doing that, I really want to be spending my time over here. So thank you.
Did you so when you're ready,
put up a boundary, and it was
oh, I love that. I love that live boundary action tonight only.
That really helps me in my coaching, because it makes it a lot easier for me to. It makes it a lot easier for me to have an intuitive sense of what's going on. And also, it also helps me come up with have you thought about this? Because I can switch perspectives so easily. I make a great devil's advocate.
Oh my gosh, do you know what your Enneagram number is?
No, I do not.
Okay, because I have a thought now, but I am true to the Enneagram, and I will not put numbers in people's brains. And so I can send you something if you're ever interested. So yeah. So it would also hint at that superpower as well. Okay.
Good to know.
Anyway, all right. I want to move on to something super fun.
Okay.
If you had a magic wand and everyone you touched with it would instantly believe whatever you told them, what would you say?
You are enough. You are worthy exactly as you are in this moment.
I love that. Thank you, Susan.
Oh, and you're loved.
Also, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
All together. So I have a gift for you, Susan. This is
I like gifts.
I have a nice glass jar full of fun, colorful notes.
Ooh, the colors. I love the colors.
Snowman of affirmation. I have green and pink and yellow and orange. Do you have a preference, or you want me to just pick one?
Just pick one. You'll pick the right one.
I'm going in. His hat is off. He's lost his hat, and you are getting a yellow one.
Ooh.
Oh. I choose abundance over scarcity. All right. Is that a good one for you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That is very well timed. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
It happens to be up on my mirror right now, but I don't mention the scarcity because I don't even want to keep that around.
Oh, wow.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. The snowman says you're welcome. And this is the one for our audience. I picked a pink one. Oh, this is very good. I feel like the snowman's always on point. I am priority number one in my life.
Yes!
Could there be a better one for boundaries?
If you ain't taking care of you, you can't take care of anybody else.
Got to put that oxygen mask on in the airplane first. Amen. And then I'm going to pick one for me.
Yes, please.
Okay, I went all the way to the bottom. All right. This is a little reminder for me. I'm 100% responsible for my happiness.
Yes, you are.
Okay. All right. That's good. A little website meltdown today, but I cleaned it up.
It sounded like you were very effective.
There was some melting, but it was effective. Melting. It's good. It's good. I reached out
Yeah.
to people. All right.
You could have been just like, "Wah," and stayed there. No.
Mm, what do they call it? Failing fast or failing forward or whatever. So I feel like I'm getting really good at that. Like just like, oh, this is how I fumbled today. What was okay?
Can
One,
I
I
reframe
love
that as,
myself.
what
Two,
did I learn today?
what do I got? I have a whole exercise called the lucky penny game.
Ooh,
And
mhm,
so I've been like saving my like pennies that I found for like years and years. And so now I'm giving away
mhm,
them away in my speaking and workshops and stuff. Yeah, so one like so it's like taking a crap moment and like eventually going from that hot mess into like gratitude and then learning the lesson and stuff
mhm.
like that. So yeah, lucky penny game. So anyway, Susan, this has been lovely.
I could just chat for you. And
So
your tea.
my announcements is that I will not be having any more live shows for the summer. It's my time of introspection and kind of going within and take care of myself, putting up my boundaries, saying like closing the curtains for a little bit so I can just swim and write and write a couple, revise my business plan. So,
Mhm.
yeah, so that's what I'm doing.
You're
All right.
refilling your well.
I'm refilling my well. Yes, it's my time.
You can't give water if you're not refilling your well.
Feeling dry. I guess that's why I'm swimming all the time now. Soaking it all in. Soaking in the rays, soaking in the sunshine and
Love
my
it. Love it.
getting my muscles back for the summer. So Susan, this has been an absolute delight
It has. Thank you
to
so much
chat
for
with you.
having me.
You're welcome.
This has been
It's
fun.
when I get back up and running, maybe we'll have you on again for
Yeah.
another fun show. And
Yes.
so,
There's lots of tools. Lots of tools.
so many tools
Yeah.
to even think about. Yes,
Yes.
so good. All right. Well, that is it. I am sending on behalf of Susan and myself, we are sending love, light, and laughter to you. And you have a lovely season, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you.